Welcome to Mark's British Airways Fleet Update, looking at short and long-haul fleets.
It's time once again for the British Airways Fleet Update here on Mark's Trains, Planes and Trams. We'll be looking at all the latest developments across the short and long-haul fleets, including the Cityflyer and Euroflyer subsidiaries. Make sure you like this video and drop us your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel and click for notifications. Now, let's get going with this week's update.
And this week's headlines on the British Airways Fleet Update. Disruption across the A380 fleet worsens. The Dreamliner fleet, the Boeing 787s at BA, sees disruption improve. Only 19% of the fleet now out of use. There's been an extra Titan Airways lease for Euroflyer returning to Gatwick, and the weather prompts diversions away from Washington Dulles Airport. Let's get on and have a look at the British Airways Cityflyer fleet. Once again, no maintenance moves to Exeter, no irregular occurrences. I've got an update on quiet time with no drama. Maybe you know different. Maybe there's aspects of the Embraer 190 operation out of London City I've missed. Do drop me a comment here on YouTube if you know differently. But we'll move across to London Gatwick and the Euroflyer subsidiary. No aircraft under maintenance, generally a quiet period, but a little bit of drama on the morning of Saturday, the 12th of July, when Golf Alpha Tango Romeo, flying out to Bordeaux on the BA 2570, made a rapid descent just over the English Channel, 14,000 to 10,000 feet, entered a holding pattern before returning to London Gatwick at 10:38. Now, there was an issue with Tango Romeo, I think, anyway. The aircraft was removed from service and the flight had already been delayed from a 6:40 departure to a takeoff at 09:12, and the aircraft had been under maintenance since mid-afternoon the previous day, having come out of service. Not quite sure what was going on there, but British Airways summoned rapid assistance from Titan Airways. Now, summer Saturday in July is not the best time to pick up the phone to someone like Titan and say, hey, do you have any spare planes lying around? But on this occasion, it proved British Airways wild to make that call, because Titan Airways did actually have an aircraft available, and they immediately dispatched previous wet lease candidate Papa Oscar Whiskey Kilo from Stansted. It was scrambled and whizzed across as the Euroflyer 9754 departing from Stansted at 12:23, and it then worked the BA 2570 with the call sign Griffin 59 Lima. Now, those poor customers who'd been up at some ridiculous hour in the morning, got themselves to Gatwick, checked in for an 0640 departure. They eventually got on the aircraft for the second time and headed off down the runway at Gatwick at 14:57. Having got their hands on this aircraft, British Airways Euroflyer decided to keep it, and it was allocated work for the 13th of July. Now, just a reminder, the expectation is 5 A320s permanently moving across from Heathrow Mainline. 3 of those are already there, and we're expecting Uniform Whiskey and Uniform Zulu to transfer as new aircraft arrive at London Heathrow. And you've got a couple of aircraft that have been withdrawn from the Gatwick fleet already, and one more expected imminently. So the Titan Airways lease continues with Papa Oscar Whiskey Mike, and we've just spoken about sister ship Whiskey Kilo helping out as well. So let's move across to London Heathrow and just have a look at the Mainline Airbus short-haul fleet. Delta Bravo Charlie Charlie on the 319 fleet remains at Glasgow. Been there since the 12th of June. We did think perhaps on the 4th of July, when the aircraft was started up, that it might be getting close to coming back into traffic, but apparently not the case. Echo Uniform Charlie in the A320 fleet remains at Glasgow under maintenance, and Echo Uniform Romeo released from maintenance at Malta on the 7th of July. That flew as the BA 9274 from Malta back to London Heathrow, landing at 1800. Immediately allocated onto Shuttle 8 Kilo up to Edinburgh 1815 departure, although it did leave about an hour late. But that's probably one of the fastest turnarounds I've seen of an aircraft off maintenance. Within 90 minutes, it's back in traffic, loaded, with passengers, baggage and cargo heading off down the runway. And we reported last time 319 Echo Uniform Papa November. That remained at Madrid on the ground for over a week, 28th of June to the 8th of July. Maintenance attention at Madrid. Don't quite know what went wrong, but they did cancel its planned flight back on the 28th of June. And then on the 8th of July, the BA 9277 empty back to London Heathrow, but looks like they wanted to have a look at the aircraft, check it over and have a look at what had gone on at Madrid. So a couple of days further out of traffic. 10th of July, that aircraft returned back to operation. And I've also got an update for you, pilot circuit training. We like to give you those updates here and just tell you what British Airways have been doing. Airbus A320 Echo Uniform Yankee India was deployed for a 2-day trip, actually 8th and 9th of July, pilot circuit training to get through new pilots and the practical element of their training and pass out. So BA 9260, the 805 London Heathrow to Shannon. Also, I think worth just noting, my contact in British Airways tells me that the training captain is able to decide where they want to do the circuit training. I think there's some other considerations like the weather and also the amount of traffic that might be in the area on any given day. Obviously, what British Airways are looking for is an airport that's as quiet as possible, because if there's other traffic about, that's a bit of a distraction for both the training pilots themselves, but also the pilots under training. But it also delays proceedings because potentially they've got to get out of the way. So Shannon isn't exactly an airport with no traffic at all, but it's relatively quiet, and 2 days activity there with an overnight stop back as the Speedbird 9261 from Shannon on the afternoon of the 9th of July. Bit of an update on new aircraft. Not a lot has changed, although we understand Airbus A320 Golf Tango Tango Sierra Bravo is undergoing testing. You may recall that was the aircraft that should have been delivered some time ago and actually suffered damage during its previous testing regime. Looks like those repairs largely complete, and they're now assessing whether those repairs are going to bring the aircraft to an acceptable standard or not. A couple more 320s, couple of 321s, hopefully will be with us over the next 3 months or so. So we move across now to the British Airways long haul fleet and the Airbus A350. The first of the A350s delivered to British Airways has come up for quite a substantial bit of maintenance now, with the work at Cardiff not having yet really kicked off, although it's due to complete, I think, next year. British Airways still has to send the Airbus A350 away if it needs certain levels of work doing. So X-Ray Whiskey Bravo Alpha remains under maintenance at Bordeaux, where it's been since the 16th of June. X-Ray Whiskey Bravo Charlie is receiving some maintenance attention at Heathrow, which is within the capability of the equipment, staff and facilities there, being out of action since the 11th of June. And I think it's worth noting because, we're quite critical here on Mark's Trains, Planes and Trams about some of the shenanigans that go on with the A380 and the Dreamliner fleet, and the 777 has not been without its challenges, but the A350 fleet is performing very well indeed. Availability is high. Now, there have been some issues with the Rolls-Royce engines that require additional inspections, but on the whole, British Airways seem to be taking that in their stride and getting that done without any disruption to scheduled services. So that's good news. It's a positive. Sadly, nobody can say the same for the Airbus A380 fleet. And, you know, we all love the Airbus A380, don't we? It's a iconic aircraft, a popular aircraft. It's a nice aircraft to travel in normally when everything works, even though it's got the old club class seats. But last time we ran this program, I updated on the saga of X-Ray Lima Echo Bravo, which had been out in Manila for many, many weeks. It returned to the UK, but wasn't able to go straight back into traffic, which is the deal that British Airways have with Lufthansa Technik. It did eventually go back into service. It operated for 5 days until the 30th of June. Then it was out of use again. Then it operated a flight to Los Angeles on the 6th of July and back. Seems to have operated that okay, but then not worked since. So this aircraft in danger of being on the ground more. I think it has been on the ground more since it's come back from Manila than it has been up in the sky. Now, these overhauls in Manila are not cheap. There'll be a large amount of money transferring from British Airways to Lufthansa Technik. And, you know, these A380s are large, high-capacity planes. And when you cancel a flight, and we'll see shortly, they have been cancelling flights, you know, it's a mammoth job for the operations control and the customer service staff to put arrangements in place, especially at this time of year when flights are often fully booked. Real challenge. So look, X-Ray Lima Echo Charlie went out to Manila is still there, but the shortage of aircraft that BA is suffering with a number of A380 stopped is cancellations. So BA 213 and 212 stopped and cancelled on the 11th and the 13th of July, and the BA 293 to Washington Dulles and its return 292 cancelled on the 11th of July. The BA 57 out to Johannesburg on the evening of the 12th of July was heavily delayed. It didn't actually depart until the following morning at 10:58. So that means overnight accommodation for probably 600 passengers. And the BA 54 back from Johannesburg expected to be about 3 hours late. Now, look, this is a really serious situation. British Airways has already reduced the fleet requirement from 10 aircraft to 9 out of 12 with the recent timetable change. And the fleet can't cope, even though it's only diagrammed for 75% of availability. Now, maybe this needs a separate video, but I'd be interested, what do you think about the British Airways A380 issue? Do you think it's just a bad patch, maybe a little bit of bad luck, or is this evidence of a crisis with this fleet of 12 aircraft that British Airways just can't fix? Give me your thoughts. Onto the 777 fleet, things are a bit more settled here. 4 of the 777 200s or 300s actually out of use. Victor India Echo out of use at Heathrow since the 27th of June. Victor India November since the 10th of July. Down at Cardiff, Yankee Mike Golf out of use since the 9th of July. Sierra Tango Bravo Juliet on the 300 side out of use since the 12th of July. Victor India Charlie returned to traffic on the 12th of July. Romeo Alpha Echo Sierra returned to traffic on the same day. Both of those out at Heathrow for maintenance. Sierra Tango Bravo Juliet flew down to Cardiff as the BA 9173 on the 12th of July, and Yankee Mike Golf flew the 9170 to Cardiff for attention on the 9th of July. That's scheduled to come back on the 13th. And Yankee Mike Alpha flew the BA 9177 Gatwick across to Heathrow. Short visit for a bit of maintenance, went out on the 7th of July, back on the 9th, and again jumped straight onto a scheduled flight within an hour or two of arriving. The BA 2203 out to Cancun. On the 787 fleet, Zulu Bravo Juliet Golf, the 7878 that was involved in the BA 350 incident on the 15th of June. Well, that aircraft has not worked for 3 weeks. It's been allocated some work, never turned up and delivered on it. It was spotted recently in the hangar, so hopefully it's not an aircraft that's going to be put into storage now, but we'll see, won't we, about that. Zulu Bravo Juliet Foxtrot remains at Cardiff. We think it's there for Club Suites fitment, been there since the 17th of May. But that's obviously 2 months now. It's a lot longer than normal. So I'd be looking just to check they've not put that aircraft into storage. Zulu Bravo Juliet Charlie released from 6 weeks maintenance down at Cardiff on the 8th of July. Flew up to Heathrow as the BA 9176 and back that evening onto commercial duties on the BA 95 to Montreal. Zulu Bravo Juliet Hotel remains at Cardiff for Club Suites fitment, been there since the 13th of June. No sign yet of the 787-9 starting Club Suites fitment. Indeed, we believe that programme's delayed by a number of months now. And after 18 days out of traffic, Zulu Bravo Kilo Alpha, which would have been the first aircraft we think to go for Club Suites fitment, put back into traffic as it is on the 9th of July, working the BA 169 London Heathrow out to Shanghai. And Zulu Bravo Kilo Mike in the 787-9 fleet, which got involved in a series of empty moves, including flying back from Mexico City on the 20th of June. That aircraft has been out of use ever since, potentially engine related. Quite a lot on the Dreamliner fleet, so we're on to our second slide. Zulu Bravo Lima Delta 787-10. That's the Dreamliner that's been stopped for the longest period of time. It's been out of use at London Heathrow since the 23rd of September 2024. Recently returned, having been moved about, dragged round the maintenance base. It's returned to its former place of rest facing Hatton Cross. Engines missing, casings covered in red tarpaulin. I actually took that photograph on the slide myself on the 8th of July at London Heathrow. No sign of the aircraft returning to traffic. If they don't pull their socks up and get engines fitted, you know, there'll be a 1-year anniversary cake potentially being baked for that particular aircraft. And nothing to do with the Dreamliner fleet itself, but some quite nasty thunderstorms in the Washington Dulles region on the 12th of July on Saturday morning, early afternoon. That led to disruption to 2 787 flights. The BA 217 with a 787-9 Zulu Bravo Kilo Juliet ended up diverting to Baltimore BWI, refueled on the ground once the thunderstorms were clear, and then undertook what must, I think, be one of the shortest flights ever in its career, Baltimore to Washington Dulles as the BA 217, but using the call sign Speedbird 7 Whiskey. That was an 18-minute flight from takeoff to landing. Arrived at Dulles some 3 hours late. And 787-8 Zulu Bravo Juliet Echo had a similar but slightly different experience to its sister aircraft on the BA 291 to Dulles. Actually, they found out, of course, a little bit earlier what was going on. They diverted to Boston Logan, and again, after refueling and the weather passing, it flew quite a long route, actually, sort of 3 sides of a rectangle shaped route out over New Hampshire, New York State, Pennsylvania, and then coming into Washington Dulles. I think they did that to avoid the weather. It's about 2.5 hours late in the end. Those of you who are regular viewers of Mark's Trains, Planes and Trams and my British Airways fleet updates will recognise this table. You'll also perhaps recognise it's smaller and has less on it than previously, which is good news from a British Airways perspective, but only 19% of the Dreamliner fleet unavailable for traffic as of the 12th of July. That's an improvement, of course, from last time, one for us to keep an eye on. Well, that about wraps it up for this British Airways fleet update. Thanks to all of you for watching, especially grateful for those of you that just do that tiny little thing that I ask each of you to do, which is to like the video on YouTube and drop us a comment. Maybe some information you think I've missed, maybe some information you've heard about, maybe a question about the fleet, some thoughts about what British Airways are up to. I'm less interested in, what you think about the British Airways travel experience, or whether you like the fact that you can't be in the exec club or whatever. Really, this is about the fleet. But anyway, you can make whatever comments you want. Flyer Talk continues to offer us helpful hints, tips and information, pointers for research, and I'd thoroughly recommend you go to the Flyer Talk website and have a look yourself. I will catch you again very soon here on Mark's Trains, Planes and Trams with another British Airways fleet update.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe and click the notification button so you don't miss any of the great trips Mark has coming your way on this YouTube channel.